Well, I have said I was going to do this, and I'm super stoked that I've got Dr. Jeni with me today. He is the innovator and expert of all things NAD. And so, welcome, Dr. Shi. I'm so glad that we were able to make this time.
Thank you very much. It's my distinct pleasure to be with you today.
Oh, that's very kind. Um, well, we're going to jump right in. So, give us a little bit of a background on about you.
Sure. So I was an academic scientist for a little over 40 years. And I was a professor at the University of Florida for 15 years. And then I moved to the Medical College of Georgia and worked there for 20 years until 2 years ago. That's when I quitted my academic job and started my own company because I really want to translate the discoveries we made over decades of research into clinical applications so it can really make a difference in people's lives.
Amazing. Awesome. I was not giving you enough street cred when I was talking about you earlier. I was saying over 30 years of academic research, but I got that wrong. Way more than that. How did you get started or interested in NAD testing, experiments? What was the background there of how this happened?
Well, I think there are two reasons. One is more selfish reason, and the other one is probably for public good. So, I'm 62 years old this year.
You don't look it. Congratulations.
Thank you. But I don't feel 62. I really feel like I'm in my late 30s or early 40s, and I'll tell you why. And if you really manage your daily life and your health, you can feel young. I mean, decades younger than your chronological age. That's how I feel now. So, as I was, getting into my sixth decades, and I knew that I had to make a change in my life so I can stay healthier and younger.
I'm going to interject
And
there. How did you know that?
well, because I was getting more tired, and I can judge by my tennis game. So
I play tennis too, so you can tell for sure.
yeah, tennis is good, and we can talk about that later. So if you are a tennis player, when you are not as good as you used to be, you are probably getting older and refuse to become old. And so that's when I realized that it's time to really make a change. In order to make a change, we have to take a holistic approach, a scientific approach, and that's one of the major reasons that I need to study how we age, how we can stop aging, and hopefully reverse aging. And if I can do that with myself, and I can probably share my experience with as many people as possible and make them feel younger and perform as a young person again. I think I have at least partially succeeded, and we made a lot of progress uh, with myself, and also we have been able to help thousands and really tens of thousands of people over the last couple of years. So I am really happy that I made a decision to quit. I'm not a quitter, okay? I want to tell
Right.
you that, and I want everyone to understand. I have never been a quitter. I quit something for something else that's much better.
These are things I understand 100%. Wonderful. Okay. If we had to say what is important for people to understand about NAD in a very simplistic way, why should people right now be paying attention to their NAD levels? Very
All right.
simplistically, and we'll keep going.
Yeah, very simplistic. NAD, you can consider NAD as a vitamin. I think most people would understand what is a vitamin and why vitamins are important. NAD is the most important vitamin. Well, I should say one of the most important vitamins, if not the most important vitamin that we currently know. And it has over 500 different functions. And NAD is what we call a coenzyme. A coenzyme is a molecule that helps other enzymes to function. And without NAD, over 500 enzymes would not function. The most important function that everyone should know is that NAD is required for the production of cellular energy in the form of ATP. I think many people may have heard of ATP. At least more people have heard of ATP than NAD. But what many don't know is without NAD, you cannot produce ATP. Without ATP, you have no energy, you wouldn't function anymore. So you can compare NAD as gasoline for the engine of your car, for example. And without NAD, the engine wouldn't run, it doesn't create ATP, the car wouldn't move, like your body wouldn't move without NAD and ATP.
True or false that if we suddenly got depleted of NAD, that potentially within, like, I know that's clearly that would be death, but like would you die if you did not have NAD?
If you
I
don't
read
have
that
any,
like, if you had no NAD suddenly within 30 minutes, you would be gone.
some people say that without NAD you would die in 30 seconds, but no one is going to know, right? No one wants
We don't want that either. But
So-
to get the idea of the importance of the criticality of it, I think you just used a word that I've not used well enough, which is it is required. It is not sexy or fun. It is required.
Yeah.
We can make it sexy and fun too, but it is a requirement of our body, and I think that that's something that I've not done a good job simplifying that well.
Absolutely. Without NAD, you would not be able to produce ATP at all. And without ATP, you cannot survive. Period. And, NAD is one of the top 3 molecules for life. Everyone understands the importance of water and H2O, right?
Right.
Without water, you wouldn't survive. Without food, you can survive for a long time, but without water, it's not going to last very long. All right?
Right.
ATP is one of the top 3, and NAD is right there. I'm not going to drink water, ATP, or NAD because they are so essential. They are all there. But NAD, I would say, is probably even more important than ATP because in addition to the production for ATP, NAD is required for 500 other functions. As important as ATP is, NAD is more important.
Got it. Perfect. That's a great explanation. So would it be safe to say that this is a passion for you?
This is not only a passion, it's my life.
These things become all-consuming. I understand that 100%. What are, I think we just went over kind of the very basics that people need to understand about NAD, so check that box, wonderful. We're going to jump ahead for just a minute because I think people not understanding the relevance of NAD plus testing, and then people say, well, who cares if I get the test if I can't do something about it, and the supplementation that you've got patent pending on. So let's jump ahead real quick and talk about that there's something that we can do about the NAD. I'm curious, how long did it take for you to find this optimal formula? How did you go about it? How much I think it's something that's lost in the magic and the science of being in this space is understanding the story and the effort that goes into curating a potential solution for somebody. If you feel comfortable talking about that, but I'm curious if you'd be willing to share that because I think
Sure.
that's very powerful.
Yeah, I think I'll back up a little bit, and by saying that Fortunately, there are multiple potential ways to elevate NAD levels for us. And another point I probably want to make first is NAD levels decline with age.
Absolutely, yeah. We should go with that first.
We want to establish that kind of a baseline,
Absolutely.
right? And at a young age, mostly in infants and teenagers, even all the way to our mid 20s, the vast majority of young adults and infants have normal levels of NAD. Even in the very young group, about 25% of them don't have optimum level of NAD. And as we age, by our 30s and 40s, and over 50% of us is deficient in NAD. In our 50s and 60s and beyond, almost everyone is deficient if you don't take actions. Fortunately, in the last decade or so, we have had quite efficient strategies to get NAD levels optimized. There are a number of ways to do it, and some of the perceived options to elevate NAD may actually not work, and we can talk a little bit about the details. The good news is now we have very simple, easy, affordable oral supplements that can get NAD levels elevating. I prefer the word optimize, because you can increase your NAD level, but you're still in a suboptimal range.
Yep.
So optimization is to get your NAD level irrespective of where you were, but will get you to the level that will give you maximum vitality and health.
That's one of my favorite words, optimize.
Yeah, we want to optimize. We don't just want a normal. I mean, normal is basically what you see in so-called healthy individuals.
Right.
Optimum is what you really need to function at your best. So we now know how to optimize NAD levels and revitalize cellular function so you can perform at your own peak and at a young age. That's the good news. And how to do it? We have a suite of tools that we can use to get everyone, and maybe not everyone. I have a 90 to 95% confidence to get people's NAD optimized, not 100%.
And that's honesty. That's truthful for most things. We can do a lot of things for a lot of people. There are some people you always just kind of scratch your head, but yeah.
Right.
So building off of what you just said, though, you're probably going to go forward, and I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but
No, go ahead.
so then, what would be considered too young to test and or to supplement? I'm thinking about there's so many pediatric kids that I'm a doc that I feel like I'm trying to be more rounded in understanding that our soil is depleted, that even if people are eating whole foods and they're not doing processed foods, et cetera, and there are parents that are really trying very hard to do the right thing by their kids, but pediatric population is getting sicker and sicker, just like the rest of the American public. Is there a space and a place even for pediatric testing of NAD levels?
Absolutely. So probably let's start with adults.
Sure.
I think starting in your 30s and beyond, almost everyone should get tested for the NAD level, because most of us become suboptimal or deficient. Now, in terms of the pediatric population, I think it's a good idea to get tested because we have a significant proportion of children who is deficient in NAD. I tested, my young children, and now they are 3 and 7 years old. And my 7-year-old was deficient in NAD. My 3-year-old was not. So in a pediatric population, I would not recommend the supplementation without testing first. For adults, if you don't want to spend the money on testing to get started, I'm fine. But with a pediatric population, testing is absolutely recommended before supplementation. Now, we do find about 25% of pediatrics, there are some health issues related to the deficiency. And, I often compare NAD to vitamin D, another vitamin that more people are familiar with. Now, we supplement all newborns and infants for vitamin D because our body cannot produce enough vitamin D unless you are, exposed to sun, a long time and naked under the sun.
We're indoor creatures now. We're not getting exposure that we used to. Yeah.
Right. The only way that you can produce vitamin D is through sun exposure. So, but most people don't get enough vitamin D. We supplement our children for vitamin D, but once they grow older, most people forgot, and most adults don't take vitamin D supplements. They are deficient. 80-90% of Americans are deficient in vitamin D. Something that's really easy to do, really cheap, everyone can afford it or should be able to afford it, but 80-90% of us don't do it, including doctors, by the way. I mean,
I'm aware.
I work with so many doctors. I mean, the doctors don't supplement vitamin D. That's just beyond the comprehension, at least to me. And so NAD is very similar to vitamin D. And our body can make NAD, but if we don't supply the building blocks for the cells to make NAD, many of us are not going to be able to make sufficient quantities so we can stay at the required level. And so starting from very young age, I would say, testing for NAD will only give us a much healthier population, and it's going to extend our long-term health and lifespan. It's something that I don't think we should wait until our 50s or 60s to do it. I mean, definitely when we're getting to that age, we're tired and we don't sleep as well as we used to, and we got pain everywhere, joint, muscle, and headaches and everything. And if you can get your NAD levels optimized, it's going to solve many of these issues for many people.
I agree. Phenomenal. So I don't know if you know the answer to this. This is something that popped into my head as we were talking about. So number one, going back to the pediatric, I guess the reason why I brought up the pediatric is because it's a slippery slope from, 14 to 28 is what I feel like, right? A lot of the things that people aren't feeling well as a young adult actually probably started when they were slightly younger and they didn't realize it, didn't appreciate it, whether it was moodiness, fatigue, etc. It was whatever, could have been, it's just lifestyle attributes, but perhaps this is something that's been building. So that's why I wanted to ask about the adults. It's a no-brainer, but I feel like there's a space and a place where people have not thought through working backwards to kids. I mean, it's the same thing with people in my perspective, from a cholesterol perspective, looking at the advanced cardiometabolic labs, that you don't wait until you're in your 40s and 50s and 60s to start getting those labs. And that's what most people do. You should be getting those earlier and knowing sooner. So I feel it's the same way about your NAD level. What I was going to ask you, and I'm curious about, is is there, and if there's no answer to this, that's okay. But do we have any reason or a why of how our NAD levels compared to 10,000 years ago? Is there any studies that show that was an optimal NAD level back then. Something changed in the atmosphere, environmental, or are we just still kind of going off of modern day NAD levels to kind of track and know where we're at?
Well, unfortunately, we don't know the answer to your question, because testing for NAD is only possible for patients and consumers in the last 4 years, and we were the first to come up with a NAD test that can be used to test large numbers of people, and we only got it to work about 4 years ago, and
So, in other words, this is cutting edge. Like this isn't
this is
something that,
this is
because some
cutting.
people want to know the difference and they want to, kind of go head to head and say, well, it's kind of like the people that talk about the coal miners who ate, very extravagant caloric intake diets, and they say, well, see, I can do it. My grandparents lived to 120, so I should be able to. But their bodies, their physiques, their exercise levels, their physicality, everything is totally different. So it's just sometimes you got to speak to where people's mind might be going, which is like, why do we care if we didn't care about this before, if we didn't have this testing before, if it should have been so important, we should have had it 50 years ago. It's because this is a new evolving science.
Yeah, I mean, we are making incredible progress in terms of technologies and knowledge on health, on medicine, and only 5 years ago we didn't know. We knew how important the NAD was, but no one knew how widespread the deficiency is and how young the deficiency can start. And you may hear podcasts from NAD experts that are on podcasts, TV, and everywhere out there. I very often I laughed at them. Their knowledge is still was stayed at at least 5 years ago. They don't have the information that we have accumulated in the last 4 years. Every time when I hear this very famous influencer talking about the NAD, I have to laugh at them. Sometimes I go comment on their posts. Well, dude, you need to upgrade your information. Talk to me.
They need to optimize their NAD information.
They need
Yes,
to
100%.
optimize their NAD. Many people are trying to manage their NAD levels, but they are not doing the test, and they don't know which method works well. And I have data on many of them. Their NAD is not optimized, even though they are talking about how important NAD is. Well, you really have to test to know whether your NAD level is optimized and how much you need to take and what type of either supplements or some people like IV or injections. Get tested. Don't guess. Find out whether your NAD strategy is working for you. If you already know the importance of NAD, if you don't know the importance of NAD, study it. I mean, you are going to find out easily how important it is. And also, I would say, give it a try. You are going to 90% of the people who try it will experience a noticeable difference within a few days to 3 to 4 weeks, and you are going to be a totally different person if you get your NAD optimized. So I want to go back to the question you asked. That's are we more deficient in NAD now? I don't know the absolute answer, but I can hypothesize. We are becoming a less healthier population. We have more inflammation due to many reasons, mostly lifestyle related. We are not as active as we used to be. As a population, we have more inflammation, and we have higher oxidative stress or free radicals, and both are related to the deficiencies of NAD. Now, inflammation can increase the enzyme called CD38 that actually degrades NAD. The more inflammation, higher inflammation you have, and the more NAD is consumed, and if you don't give your body the building blocks to make enough NAD, you're going to become NAD level is going to become lower and lower as ongoing chronic inflammation. So I would say, yeah, overall, we are probably more deficient in NAD nowadays than sometime in the past. But that's an important scientific question. But practically, frankly, I think it's not so important. What's more important to the listeners is, what's my NAD level now? What can I do about it? And how can I get my NAD to the optimum level? Can I get benefits from optimized NAD level? These are the practical questions that I prefer to communicate with people, and so we can try to bring their life to 10 years younger, 20 years younger, even 30 years younger. We can do it. I'm a living example, and I intend to be a living example for another 50, 60 years.
Wonderful. Can I go back to asking you how long it took you to formulate your
you took us
Sorry, and I was just going to say real quick. So we know there's subcutaneous NAD, there's IV NAD that you can take niacin at high doses, but most people don't tolerate it. You can take NR; it doesn't seem to have a good penetrance. You can take NMN alone; it doesn't seem to have a very good penetrance to it. So Dr. Shi has figured out a patented formulation, and as somebody I'm very passionate about intracellular micronutrient testing, and I feel like this actually goes hand in hand with that and back and forth. That this is important stuff for people to know how much energy went into trying to get a good solution for people.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about how you can potentially increase your NAD. There are four main possibilities to increase NAD levels. The first one is very intuitive. Why don't we just give NAD to people? Because we're talking about NAD, right? Yeah, it can be done. It has been done for decades. Now, what we didn't know was, can we get the NAD level inside the cells up by giving NAD to someone? That has been done through intravenous infusion or IV infusion of the NAD molecule.
Which I've personally done. Yep.
So, and you can also inject the NAD molecule subcutaneously. That has been done in the last few years.
I've done that with patients.
Yeah, the shocking news that I'm trying to teach is intravenous infusion of NAD does not, I want to emphasize, does not increase NAD levels in the cells. You get an increase of NAD in the blood or in the plasma for a few hours to a few days. And it takes only 6 hours for the NAD to be reduced by 50%. So every 6 hours, the NAD levels that you injected get reduced by 50%.
Right.
So in 12 hours, you have only 25% what you injected into the blood. Right? In 24 hours, it becomes 12.5%. So very minimum. The bottom line is the NAD level you injected gets degraded very fast in the blood, and unfortunately, the NAD molecule is too big to get inside the cells. And NAD IV does provide some benefit on a short-term basis. Some people actually feel higher energy, and it has been used to treat some neurological conditions and infectious conditions with pretty good efficacy. But what's really the problem is this approach has been pushed as anti-aging and improving wellness magic. That's where it gets broken down. I want people to understand that if you want to increase your cellular energy, you want to do better, you want to increase the longevity, and intravenous IV is not the way to go. You're not going to get the benefit you possibly can.
Yeah, two different discussions between serum circulating and intracellular again. And there just hasn't been, again, until your test. That's why I was so excited to talk to you and find you and all the things, because I had been looking for a test like this to see if something like this, even 18 months ago, does this exist? And so you did. I couldn't find you at the time, but now I found you. And so
you did not find us. We would have been.
So I think there needs to be a paradigm shift, because it's like you said with the gurus and influencers, et cetera, but that ultimately people need to know about your test first. Because if you don't know about it and you don't know that intracellular option to know it exists, you can't do anything about it. But and what do we care what's circulating? It's like I do the body composition. Yeah, we need water, but it's just circulating. We care about the cells. How the water is to help the cells. It's not for the sake of the water, right?
Absolutely. So now we know for NAD IV it has its purposes, and if it's not used for the right intention, it's not going to provide the benefit, and it's very expensive, and that's why people have the perception that NAD treatment is very expensive. That's because of the IV. Now, then the second approach is you can try to reduce the consumption of NAD by reducing inflammation, by exercising to reduce oxidative stress, inflammation. You can probably reduce the consumption and then maintain the NAD level. So that's one way to do it, but it's not going to be sufficient. The third way is you can try to boost the enzymes that make NAD, and that has been tried as well. Again, it's not a very highly efficient. The final approach, the fourth approach, is to give what we call NAD precursors. Now, NAD precursor is a building block that our cells use to make NAD. And there are two main precursors, and maybe four. So the first one is NMN, or nicotinamide mononucleotide. And second one is NR, nicotinamide riboside. And the fourth one is nicotinamide. The third one is nicotinamide, and the fourth one is niacin, or nicotinic acid.
Right.
Now, we can go into all of these, but the bottom line is the best NAD precursor is NMN, and the next one is NR. Some people can use niacin to elevate the NAD level, and niacin is a FDA approved drug to reduce cholesterol. It has been used by a number of people. What we have found is high dose of niacin can increase NAD levels in a subset of individuals, but the higher NAD level from niacin may not be giving you the ideal benefit. What we are finding is high dose of niacin may actually accelerate the pace of aging. And that's very new. It's very, very new data. Okay, that's coming out in the last couple of months.
Wow.
And it's not published. I have not talked about it anywhere else. It's the first time I'm talking about it on your show.
Wow, very cool.
So people do know that niacin can. So I would say, be very careful with niacin. I'm not sure high dose of niacin, even if reduces the cholesterol, overall has a positive benefit in terms of anti-aging. We do not want to accelerate the pace of aging from a cellular level. So we need more studies on that to for definitive conclusion, but at least for some individuals, high dose of niacin can increase NAD, but it's not giving you the anti-aging benefits. That's going to be a very, very important topic for us to investigate and get to the bottom of it. And I would not take a high dose of niacin, and not only for the side effects. It gives people flushing, and it's not a very good. Yeah, not a very nice sensation to have for most of us. Nicotinamide is another vitamin B3 and vitamin, and it does increase NAD in some individuals, but it's not efficient enough. So if you really want to increase NAD level, NMN and NR are the two best options. What we have found is if you just take a pure NMN or NR, you only increase NAD level on average by 40%, and you optimize NAD level for about 20 to 30% of the individuals. And so we were not happy about it. That's why my wife and especially the product is actually formulated by her, and I was involved. I'll take some credit, but most credit should go to her. And
awesome.
And then she's a Ph.D. scientist in food science and biochemistry, so she knows a lot of stuff about it. And
she doesn't know anything, to clarify that.
Yeah.
She's the brains of the operation, is what I just heard.
She is, and I
awesome.
have to give her the credit. I'm just out there and talk about her work, and so we were not happy with what was with the supplement and the product on the market about 3 years ago when we had the test. I mean, initially we developed the test to help people finding the right supplement, finding the right dose, and we never intended to go into supplements. And we said, there were so many products on the market, something should work. I will try a few dozens of products on the market. We didn't find anything that was to our satisfaction. We said, we know how to do it. We did the drug development in academia. Supplements, it should be easy. So we applied our knowledge in drug development to formulating a supplement. We did dozens and dozens of combinations of various ingredients, and we were able to come up with this really magical formulation that not only increased NAD level on average for over 100%, but more importantly, we optimize NAD level for 90% of the people who are taking the supplements. On top of that, it's not just the optimization of NAD. NAD is just one molecule. What we care more is how people feel after getting the NAD optimized. What are the health benefits? What are the cellular benefits that one can get with optimized NAD? So, fortunately, we are seeing benefits on so many different levels by such a high percentage of users. Anything closer to what this is, and we are, very happy with what has been done and how people are getting the benefit from this. I'm always the first guinea pig, so I with any formulation, I'm the first one to try. If I don't die, then my wife tries. We have young kids. I mean, my wife.
Can't do it at the same time. It's just pragmatic.
Yeah, my wife is much younger than I am, so I don't want her to be the first one to try. So if I'm the first one to try, if I don't die, then she tries. And if if everything is good, then our associates and try, and then our kids. I mean, our kids are on the supplement now. So
That's amazing.
that's how we do things.
I mean, I tell my patients, clients, they're like, look, I'm not going to ask you to do something that I wouldn't do.
Right.
So I'm looking
Absolutely.
forward to getting my NAD level checked. My wife's, I haven't started the supplement yet because I already have patients that the jars I bought, they're already supposed to be going someplace. They're already accounted for. So coming soon for me. But so I mean, honestly, you got to, if you believe in something, you should be participating in it. That's how I look at it. I don't know
I
that anybody should be
absolutely
listening
agree.
to a physician
Yeah,
that's
I
not in an
don't preach
ideal shape.
anything that I don't preach anything that I don't do. My family doesn't do, and that's
Yeah. I don't think that there's a lot of people in the healthcare space that would actually follow that mantra. So good on you.
very few.
Um,
Yeah,
so let me see. I want to make sure we cover everything that I had before we jump into some other fun topics here. I think we covered it all. So fatigue. Let's do some quick topics,
yeah,
quick overview. How would
yeah.
NAD impact fatigue? I think we already said it, but let's just make it real simple for people. What do
Very
intracellular
simple.
NAD levels impact in fatigue?
Yeah, most people are tired because they don't have enough energy. They don't have enough ATP at the end of the day. For some people, even at the beginning of the day, and so get your NAD optimized will allow your cells to make enough ATP, and will keep you energized for the whole day. So many
Sure.
people, when they are tired, they go to coffee. Yeah, coffee is great. I'm not against the coffee. Well, for me, it's more green tea, and but both coffee or green tea. Well, I think green tea is probably slightly different. They don't really fundamentally change the energy production of your cells. So cellular energy to power your body to do what you want to do.
Wonderful. Um, can you speak to any data around NAD levels and relationship to poor cholesterol patterns? Out of curiosity.
Yeah, so NAD is very important for metabolic function, and the most benefits that we get is probably through the reduction of insulin resistance, so it improves glucose metabolism. And in some individuals, it can also help reduce. It only works for a subset of individuals. It's more potent in reducing triglyceride than to reduce cholesterol
Sure. And that's what
level.
niacin.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Triglyceride reduction is actually quite dramatic in many individuals. Again, it's not 100%, and
Right.
but it does work in a very high number of individuals. It also improves liver function, and the reduction of ALT with taking NAD products is quite significant.
All right. And ALT we care about from a fatty liver perspective,
Yeah,
for those that
yeah,
aren't familiar. But
yeah,
by the time that enzyme is linking and elevated, that's a form of hepatitis at that point of just inflammatory
right.
spillover enzymatic. So a
Yeah.
lot of people walk around and they have an ALT level that's
Mm-hmm.
normal, but
Uh,
it's kind of like Attia says, Peter Attia, that
yeah,
really, and even Dr. Gabrielle Lyon down in Texas about muscle stuff. It's not our normals are for looking for disease, quote, our normals on most laboratory testing, and that's something that you kind of have to shake people and get people to understand that it's the minimum thresholds to stay alive and maybe prevent disease, but more so just looking for actual disease, and that's just a different headspace getting patients and clients to understand of we're going for a different level. So like I look at C-peptides, fasting C-peptides, and I have to explain to them, look, this is on my clinical experience that if this is higher this is not, I'm not looking at this for an insulinoma or anything like that. I'm looking at it for a different metabolic reason, and those lab standards are not catching up fast enough to explain that to people, right?
You are absolutely right because the standards were set for sick care, not for health care or well care, if you want.
Right.
And you know, I'm not gonna doubt the intentions of healthcare professionals, but most doctors don't really think about it. I used to be part of the teaching faculty for doctors, but I know how they are taught.
Right. I
And
was too. I understand.
yeah, and the goal is to keep people from dying immediately, right?
Right. We're very good
And
at acute care. We're not good at chronic care.
yeah, what you are doing now and what I'm doing now is to figure out how to keep people healthy and prevent them from having to go to the hospital or seeing the regular doctors. I'm not trying to badmouth about them because we were part of them as well. But it's much more important to prevent the disease symptoms, and we can do it. And we have the tools, we have the knowledge to stay healthy and to stay out of the hospital. I have not gone to a doctor for over 10 years, and that's probably not. I don't want people to understand that if they're sick, they shouldn't go. But what I'm trying to say is take care of yourself, and there are many different options to stay healthy and to stay ahead of clinical symptoms and injuries. And if you can do that, you are going to live much longer and perform accomplish what you want to do in life.
100%. I mean, I feel like I feel this is I'm glad you clarified what you were saying about you haven't been to the doctor in 10 years, because I'm going to say most people avoid the doctor. They're not getting the right labs when they do see the doctor, so they don't feel like they got an answer that's really fulfilling to them. They're also usually not getting an answer of what to do to try to change something. But also there's the mindset of the people that don't go see the doctor, so thereby there's no information, so thereby I'm healthy, right? And that's a very dangerous paradigm in America for sure, with the melting pot of genes that we have, to just say, well, if I don't know what's in the black box, here's the black box, then I'm healthy because nobody's told me anything's wrong. And I think part of the NAD testing and why I was so drawn to it and so excited to find you and talk to you is the idea of, no, it's not good enough to go like this. We have to do something about it. We have to be proactive. But I think, even like talking about with the niacin and the higher doses and the side effects that you can get with that, in a lot of America, the idea is, well, if something's good, then we just need more of it, and that will take care of it. It's kind of like the person that eats 3 cups of blueberries, not realizing the fructose and the blood sugar load, saying that they're going to antioxidant themselves out of whatever catastrophe they're in. It doesn't work that way. So I think from a science, I think when a lot of people, there's a subsect of people who really understand what we're going after here, Dr. Shi talking about longevity and anti-aging, and they get it. There's a lot of other people who say, because the healthcare system is not endorsing this actively, this even line of thinking, well, then it must be hubbub. It's magic. And this testing and looking at things from a cellular level could not be further from magic. And this is why I try to tell my patients, and this is what I appreciate so much about this testing, is that it's biochemistry. It's the giant chart that you and I and your wife, anybody in medicine at some point should have had to look at and regurgitate at least once, if not twice, that's actually the magic of things. And when we talk about the power of even a statin, like, okay, is it really powerful? Because it's going after one enzymatic reaction. And here we're talking about NAD, which does over 500 enzymatic reactions that we can influence with it. I mean, we really have to put it in perspective. But taking a different look and not going like this, if I don't get tested, then I'm healthy, will save people a lot of heartbreak down the line. And I try to encourage people, like, learn to invest in yourself now, because nobody's going to invest in your health for you. They will pay for your disease to some degree, but they are not investing in your, as Dr. Attia says, proactive care, preventative care. I don't necessarily that I like the term preventative anymore. proactive care. You said well care, like well care. So the other thing is don't hang your hat waiting for American healthcare system to suddenly swing towards this direction, because on average it takes about 17 years for the standard of care to catch up, to adjust, for something to be normalized. And my patients have heard me talk about, Virta and getting low carbohydrate approved by the American Diabetic Association. They had to prove it to them to get that on the list. So know that you may be doing something cutting edge and ahead that other people don't understand or otherwise, and it's just because either they don't know, they haven't taken the time, they're too busy in their medical practices. I was there, I understand. Just because they don't know about it does not mean that this is not real science. And I want people to understand that. And the influencers that are out there and the people that are gurus that are speaking out of term, this is why I want to talk to you, is that at the end of the day, this is about kind of mad science, cool, very cool, high-tech, cutting edge, intracellular, not if take it, feel good, you feel good. I appreciate you saying if you want to just supplement, go ahead. It's probably not going to hurt you. But I think if you're trying to get to the level of optimization, I think that there is a big place for the testing to know. And the other thing is always test and retest, because our health is dynamic. Our body is constantly changing. The demands that we put on it are different. So I just don't want people being like, oh, I got the test, I took it, I'm taking my thing, I'm fine. It's you should stay on top of this, just like anything else. You wouldn't get your oil changed once and say, I'm good for the rest of the car's life. It's not how it works. So, all right. Sorry, I had to say that. I had to get on my little soapbox there for just a second.
Very good point.
Okay. We'll go through these rapid fire. Immune function. We have a lot of discussion of what's just happened in the last few years.
Yeah.
What's the criticality of NAD and the relationship of our immune status function?
So NAD and NMN both are very potent anti-inflammatory compounds. They work better than many of the drugs, probably most of the drugs, anti-inflammatory drugs on the market.
Wonderful. Fertility. There's lots of couples that struggle with this right now.
Yeah.
What is the role of NAD in fertility?
So,
or those that are struggling even?
Yeah, I'll give you some data, and then you will appreciate the importance. If you draw a line between the fertility or fecundity and the decline with age, you have a line. So it declines with age. You also draw a line of the decline of NAD with age. They almost overlap.
Wow.
That's powerful. So, and we also know NAD levels in the ovary declines with age, and we know why the NAD is reduced. That's because of the increased expression of CD38 because of inflammation. So what we know now is NAD is probably one of the most important contributor to infertility issues that we are seeing today. And there are also studies showing that NAD supplementation can solve some of the infertility issues, and that's been offered in China. And in the US, I'm not aware of clinics that are treating infertility issues with NAD, but I'm very, very interested. I think they are very safe to elevate NAD levels, and we may be able to help a lot of women with and men, frankly, with infertility issues. It's a huge area. It's a huge area that I'm very interested in, and if that's something that you are working on, I would love to generate the data for any listeners out there. If you are interested in the infertility space, I would love to collaborate, and let's generate more data, and let's help more people.
Help more people. Amen. How about neurodegenerative disorders? Parkinsonism.
Yeah. It's a big area that NAD optimization can help, and we we have many patients who have Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, autism, who are taking the NAD supplement, and they do get improvement on their symptoms. And addiction is another area that the product can help. People with brain fog can benefit from it. So, especially with the formulation we have, two ingredients, and NAD, and in our product we have another supplement called creatine monohydrate, or just creatine. Both molecules are neurotransmitters. And so when we get these two molecules up, people get a great outcome. We even have one unbelievable story. I think I may have told you when we talked last time.
Oh yeah, but tell people. This is pretty incredible.
Yeah. So we have 18 months old baby in Turkey, and unfortunately fall into a well when she was in school and in daycare, and she went to a coma for 6 months. Her doctor tried everything but couldn't wake her up, and then finally the doctor decided to put her on the NAD product. After a few days, she started moving. After a few weeks, she walks normal again. So that's incredible story. And initially, when I got the news, I said, "Wow, that's impossible. How could that have happened?" But then I really started thinking about it. So we have two powerful neurotransmitters in the supplement, and they rewire the connection of the brain cells. They also improve the communication between neurons and muscles, so the neuromuscular juncture. So the brain is able to tell the muscles to move again. I believe that's how the product was able to wake the baby up and help her to walk again.
Yeah, I mean that's
So this is a
phenomenal.
huge area that we can help.
Amazing. Most of my patients know that I am. When I saw that in the supplement, I was very excited because I'm very pro creatine monohydrate. So if I can get a patient, everything's fine on their labs, they take 5 grams once a day. Doesn't matter when, but so I'm happy to see that that's in there, and it does make a difference. It absolutely does.
Creatine is commonly used by athletes to boost their muscle function, which is true. We have only begun to notice the importance of creatine on brain function. That's quite new. The realization that creatine is a neurotransmitter only happened in the last few years. And
very
when you
cool.
combine NAD and creatine, you got both neurotransmitters and to optimize your brain function. That's when we first formulated the product, we didn't know. We have no idea that was what was happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes those are the best findings, the ones that you aren't looking for.
Right.
How about any chance that this actually can help individuals who have like ADHD?
Yes, we actually have a few children who have been with ADHD and who have been on the product. It does help. Yes.
Awesome. And then, not last but least, but we tiptoed around it, but let's talk about senescent cells.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the role of NAD in senescent cells. Go ahead.
So, senescent cells are dying cells, but they refuse to die. And so they are what we call zombie cells sometimes. They're just like zombies sitting there not doing anything, but actually they does something really bad. So they secrete a bunch of proteins, inflammatory cytokines. And the inflammatory cytokines got released to the bloodstream. They can travel all over your body and have major impact on how the whole body functions. So zombie cells are contributing factors for various diseases, including cancer and cardiovascular disease, brain health, and so on. And so when you have lower NAD levels, you are more likely to have zombie cells, and zombie cells in return and also further reduce the NAD level. So it's a bad loop, and that just exacerbate each other. So when you get NAD optimized, it's going to help reduce the senescence burden, and when you reduce the senescent cells, and you will consume less NAD because of the reduction of inflammation primarily. So these are highly related biological activities, and if people are interested, they can go to my website and read how these things interact. It's quite complicated. So we are talking about NAD today, but what I actually preach is a more holistic approach. Not only you have to get your NAD optimized, and that's very important. You are going to get a lot of benefits from optimized NAD. But if you really want to live to your 120s and 150s healthy playing tennis, and you are going to have to do much
You gotta
more.
work for it. It's not just a
You have to work.
supplement.
You have to work for it. But I mean, you should enjoy it. I mean, I enjoyed it. Every minute, frankly. So you have to get a testing on many biomarkers. You have to come up with personalized. You can readjust your plan. You can monitor the efficacy or lack of efficacy of your plan, readjust, or I call it optimization. So this is our comprehensive program that I call TAO, TAO, Test, Act, Optimize, and all guided by scientific data, your own health data, and you do it in an iterative way. So I agree very much with you. You cannot just do it once and then forget about it. That's not going to take you to your 120s being able to do whatever you want to do. I highly recommend tennis because tennis players live 10 years longer than non-tennis players.
I know. They keep saying it's racket sports, and so all the
It's a racket
pickleballers.
sport, but among racket sports, especially tennis.
Yes,
Tennis is 10 years,
especially.
and badminton is 6 years, all right? So any racket sports can help, but tennis especially.
Yeah, absolutely. I
And
mean, people don't
we
realize it.
know the scientific reason a little bit as well. So anyways, so the bottom line is you got to be proactive. You talk about proactive, preventive, precision, personalized, and also persistent. If you go to my website, you're going to see the 8 pillars or 8 P words of Tao. And you really have to follow every single one if you want to go beyond your 100th birthday. And we can do it. I believe this program can take most people beyond 100 years, and it's doable. It's not terribly expensive. I mean, it takes a little bit of money, obviously. And it doesn't take $2 million like Brian Johnson, the famous biohacker.
Right.
And we can do it with a little bit of money. And most activities actually don't cost money. Like get a good sleep and exercise, avoid harmful activities, exposures. And they are, cheap or ways that you can become healthier without spending a fortune. It's whether you have the will to act. We are here to help you and to provide the tools and to guide you to use the best scientific data and knowledge, and for you to do the best job you can. It's the number one thing is, do you have the will to stay healthy, or even to reverse your current illness,
Yeah,
and so you can go much longer in your life. It's a life choice. What do you want? And I think for both you and me, we have chosen a path to stay healthy, to do whatever it takes, to achieve our goals. Everyone can do it, and there are good ways, not too terribly expensive ways to do it.
absolutely. I think and most Americans experience if we're going 40s and up, probably most people are at a place where they want to be proactive and preventative, but this is where I was saying you can't do this because they have probably some level of metabolic dysfunction going on.
Yeah.
And that's the whole, and this is part of how I care about the NAD optimization, testing, all of that, and building that in and understanding the other tests as well that you and I might talk about in the future too. But it is, you can't say I'm just going to be healthy. You have to address and know what you've been doing and be able to, like you said, you call it will, I'm going to say honesty of this isn't working for you, right? It's kind of like when people say, well, I go and I do some type of training, strength training, 3 times a week, maybe an hour, hour and a half, and they're coming in and they're saying they don't like their muscle mass. And then I send them out with a different tool set to use, and then they come back 3 months, 6 months later, and they're unhappy with their muscle mass. And I say, what are you doing? And they were doing the same darn thing that they were doing before. What do you expect, right? So, but I think it's an honesty discussion that in America we have not forced people to consider because we've done such a good job with acute care and providing only pharmacologic agents predominantly in a one enzymatic off reaction, that nobody has to think about how it all goes together.
Right.
And I always try to really influence the people that, like, husbands and wives, partners, something might work for somebody's putting in a lot of effort for both of them, but it only helps one. And I was like, 2 separate genes. You got 2 different pots of genes if everything's not funny, so to speak. So it should be a different outcome, but that takes that effort. And I'm so glad that we talked about this and all this, because at the end of the day, it's about the person and what each single person needs and to figure out what each single person's doing from their sleep pattern, their cortisol level, their exercise, their non-exercise, right? What they're consuming, how their body is playing with energy. And a big part of the NAD thing, again, is like all my patients, I'm not here to dance around the chakras or anything like that. That's fine. But what I'm talking about when I talk about energy forward clinic it is about the cellular level. And if you don't get down to the cellular level, you're not moving the needle for anybody, and you're not getting the level of optimization. You're definitely not reversing things. And then one of the first things you said that I agree with, which is most healthcare in America, the patient comes in, they're unhappy, but they don't know the words. The doctor comes in, they're unhappy, so the patient really wants to say, I want to feel better, but instead they come in with a list that says, I think I have these diseases, check. The doctor says, I don't know how to guarantee to make you feel better, and I don't know what you're doing, so I'm just going to look at the disease list and figure out what I can order for you. And so you have 2 dissatisfied parties because neither of them are talking about feeling better. And part of it is because it's a disease model. That's not a discussion that's really introduced in there. And if you're talking about feeling in any other place, it's about psychiatry. And I care so much about fatigue because I can look back at my old practice, and that's an inclusion criteria for major depression. So not everybody walking around here, I don't actually think has major depression, but that's the criteria. So we don't know what to do to help people in the traditional disease space of healthcare outside of, say, sent you to everybody, nobody can find anything, but maybe you're depressed. And I'm so excited about this because this is another tool. It's another one. But like you said, you got to stack these things. One-hit wonders don't do anything alone. If somebody is continuing to do something that's not working and then they add the NAD supplement, they may feel some benefit. But if we're looking at these other labs that we're trying to move, it's another level of effort that's got to happen, which you call will. I call honesty. So yeah, I
Those are
agree with
important.
both. But yes, so I think this is a really powerful discussion, though, for people to know a basic, fundamental, ninth grade biology. Maybe we got to learn a little bit about there. I am very pro mitochondria, and that's actually why I was interested in the infusions of NAD, was the hypothesis of mitochondrial fission and fusion and trying to reboot mitochondria, knowing that NAD isn't going to stick around that long, but if you can get the mitochondria optimized. So here we can do both, knowing where somebody's at, getting them optimized, getting that mitochondrial stimulation too. So I really appreciate the time that you spent today and educating people and myself and sharing that new research. This is powerful stuff that people need to know. When they hear it from little old me, family doctor, sometimes they don't quite get it and they don't understand how my brain got to this place of why I care about all this so much. So you got to bring in the big guns sometimes. So I'm so glad you're here, Dr. Shi.
Thank you very much. It has been a wonderful discussion, and I look forward to see a positive impact on your patients and your
Me
clients.
too. And I might have to bring you back so we can talk about testing stuff another time if you're willing to.
Sure, I'll be happy to talk about the holistic approach, my Taoism philosophy. And I tell people I'm getting older chronologically. I want to talk more about the philosophy than the actual details because I want to change how people think. If you can change how they think and get them on the right path, then it's much easier to change the actions.
Absolutely. I agree. Well, then we're going to talk again. You have no choice.
Yeah.
Thanks again for your time.
All right. Thank you.
All right.